Hello friends, welcome. This video is more about Father God and what he's like to some extent, and more about Peter, my friend, here on the earth plane while he was here, and Son of God, Citadel. So Peter Citadel. When you go into the spirit realm, you could be from many different nations on this world. So Father God is a male God, and but he lets you see him how you want to see him. So if you want to look at him to look like a scary man, he will. But if you want him to look like a friendly man, he will. So any image you have in your mind of what you'd like him to look at is how you will see him. So, it could be anybody you know, how you want him to look, but best to pick somebody that you feel comfortable with, isn't it? And speaking your language, whatever language you speak, and probably with that person's voice. You can pick somebody that's easygoing. Peter told me that Father God enjoys coming down here and watching horse racing, or whether he does that from the spirit, I'm not sure. But enjoys watching horse racing, and he said that Father God comes down to the earth plane and goes for a walk in a beauty spot somewhere above Woking in Surrey, UK. Peter also said there's another place on the earth that's very special to Father God. So what that is, I don't know, but maybe where man first began or something. Who knows what it is? We don't know. Father God's easygoing. A very loving father, very kind, easy to get along with. So, you haven't got any worries about him. He's not an angry person, a God we should fear. He's an all-loving spirit. He loves all his children unconditionally, even no matter how bad they are. He still loves them unconditionally. Of course, he hopes that they'll improve and get better, but yeah, it's unconditional love. So that's Father God, and he's a lovely man, and he's got a sense of humour and different things. I don't know if we meet him when we pass over or not, but maybe. But he doesn't get about that much in the spirit realm, mostly on plane 12 or wherever he is. But he does go to certain functions and parties and different things sometimes. Peter said, that he's seen him at parties and fancy dress and all sorts. So yeah, he's like any father. You could get along with him just like a father. You can be like that with him. He is your father, your spiritual father, because he gives you spiritual life, and he is God too. So Father God is what he likes to be called, Father God. So moving on, that's Father God. He how he is. But moving on to Peter Citadel, his son, earth name Peter, the name God gave him was Citadel. Peter was the most lovely man. He was an amazing person to be around. He was so worldly wise. He knew so much knowledge about the world, and he was very wise and inspirational to listen to, and probably like Christ. When Christ was teaching, when Peter was teaching me, but when Christ was teaching, he was enigmatic and captivating to listen to, and Peter was the same. And I sat there and listened to him all night long one night, and next thing we know, that it's getting light outside in the summer months. So yeah, he was a very conscientious, very trustworthy man. And I've never had any real friends in this life save Peter, because I could trust him with my life. And if he fell off the edge of a cliff, he'd be holding onto the rope and he wouldn't let go. And I was like that as well. I was like that back. That's part of the reason Father God chose me for this task, is that I was highly conscientious and trustworthy and honest and all these good things to be. So yeah, and a very loving person I am indeed. And, Peter had a great deal of love for this world. He didn't want to publicly serve here, no. But he had a great deal of love for this world, and he cared very greatly. That's why he come back and done this. He had no real reason to want to come to the earth, but it was being of service to humanity and Father God. And, Christ and Citadel live in our spirit realm. They don't travel to other spirit realms, but, they're custodians and they look after the whole of God's realm if need be. So, yeah, Peter had a great sense of humour. people at work, you'd see when he was on his own, they'd go over with their problems to him and he'd give them good, impartial and wise advice what to do, and he was a lovely, lovely person. Wish he was still here, but he wasn't meant to be. So that's life, isn't it? And he's happily back on plane 10 in the Citadel, his home. So Citadel lives in the Citadel. But the most lovely man you could know. Quite different from Christ, I imagine. They're very different characters. Peter amazed me at all the amount of different things he'd done. He'd, believe it was Leeds University, studied engineering or something, and helped the guy who was inventing the hydraulic system for the Dowdeswell reversible plough. So he'd done a lot in his life. He'd worked in a quarry. Where we were working together was in '95 was on Guildford Borough grounds maintenance. So we used to go out mowing, and in the winter months he was a tree fella, a tree surgeon. Peter was, so he'd be out in the forest trimming up some stuff in the council forests, and felling the odd tree. He didn't like cutting trees down if he could help it, but sometimes they had to come down. But so the winter months we spent, around doing any tree work, and I quite often was put with him because there was no tractor driving, verge cutting and hedge cutting, which I used to do in the summer. And he used to sit on a 4x4 little sit-on, ride-on mower, doing all the steep banks and stuff because, well, the boss, he didn't trust too many people to do that, but he trusted Peter to do it. So, a lovely man and a good friend, and I look forward to meeting him again one day in the spirit realm because he's on plane 10, and that's where I'm going back to too when I pass over. So, it was great. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. Love and light to you, Neil.